This is Seth Beamer, and you're listening to the Pivot Points Music Cast on Fader. Pivot Points dissects the lives of artists at their most crucial intersections, investigating the trials of this insane career and how they are overcome. These are the stories of the crossroads that, for better or worse, shape us all into the people, friends, and musicians we're meant to be. Today, I'm joined by my guest, Kelsey Marchman, of Denver hard rock band 1,000 Frames. They've been a staple in the Denver scene for years and continue to push the boundaries of the genre with consistent releases. Here's their newest one, already amassing over 30,000 streams on Spotify alone in such a short amount of time. This is Done Blaming Myself. Kelsey.
Hello.
Thanks for being on the pod.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. Congrats on all the success as
Thank
well.
you. Thank you. It's been a long time coming, but glad it's finally happening.
So what's the secret behind Done Blaming Myself? Because this song, it's your newest song. Right. But it's your most listened to song. Mm-hmm. What do you feel is... What's the change? What happened? Or was it just your best song you've ever written? Or
I think with Done Blaming Myself, it was a few elements. Yeah. Partially, we had a guest vocalist on it, Mirza Radonjica. He's from a band called Siamese. They're out of Denmark. And we just hit him up. I actually was on an Instagram live with him, and I was like, hey, I have a band. I did not think he was going to pick me on like the Instagram live where he was like, oh, you know, well, ask a question, and I was starstruck. I was like, I have a band, we love you, here, listen to this. And so he was in it. I showed him the demo of Done Blaming Myself, and he loved it. So he was in the factor.
What?
Yeah.
What a crazy story.
It was crazy, and like he was just so into it, and you know, he was like, I'd love to throw a verse onto it. And that's how that came, and he helped us finally get out of the rut that we were in, where we were melodically having trouble figuring out where everything went. And so he was able to get us out of that. Second element was our producer, Austin Hull, who is based out of Florida, who we did Regret You with. And with him, he just was able to dial in our sound and get the sort of big anthemic sound we were going for. And I think the third element is that Kyle and I both decided that if we were going to release this song during this time, we were going to have a plan, which is half the battle. I feel like every release we've had plans, but they weren't full-fledged. This one was like there's a full plan behind it.
Can you talk a little bit about the plan, or is it some top secret stuff?
No, not top secret. It's a lot of marketing and a lot of community building. One of the things that we were kind of blessed to do during kind of 2020 and 2021 while we were doing the writing process is we had a bunch of downtime while, you know, everybody was stuck inside to do research on how to market your releases better, how to reach to community, and then discovering bands. That's how we discovered the guy from Siamese, is that we discovered him and saw that he had this community cultivated. And so that was a big part of the plan, is saying, okay, we need to make sure that this single gets in front of the people that will listen to it outside of just Colorado. We were trying to do something a little more grandiose in terms of our marketing. And so it's just a lot of researching, getting in front of the right people. Reactors were a big thing, where I went through a night of bands that are way bigger than us, and I just like watch their reaction channels, because I like seeing what they react to, what sort of hooks they react to, what they do like, what they don't like in songs, and take those elements and say, okay, we can put those in our song and see what works.
Interesting. Yeah. What are these reaction channels? I don't know if I know about this.
So there are quite a few of them. One, she lives in Fort Collins. Her name's Rachel, and she reacts to a bunch of like hard rock, metal, hardcore bands. Another guy that I follow, he's out of Australia. He's called Rogan Josh, and so I've discovered music there. And these are all channels where they have a community. They have either Patreons that people are paying into, Twitch streamers, or they're all Twitch streamers.
Yeah.
So they have people consistently on their Twitch channels. So we were just saying our goal was to say, this is where we need to be. So that way we can have people come to us and say, oh, we've never heard of them before. Let's check them out. And my favorite Twitch streamer likes them. And now I want to listen to them because I discovered it through them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's actually genius.
Yeah.
That's like a lot of like footwork ahead of time, but it sounds like it's already paying off.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, like, we weren't thrilled that we had to put on the brakes in 2020 like everybody else was, because we just released Regret You, and the plan was to do what we're doing now with Regret You.
Yeah.
But because the momentum had died off, there was something more that we had to do to recapture that. So
Sure.
It was a good time for us to do a bunch of research, do our homework, start connecting with people, and really make the song stand out as not only just a song, but like the whole plan behind it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that had to be tough. That actually leads me into Regret You. I mean, what a crazy time to put out a song. And at that time, I would say that song seemed like maybe your guys's like magnus opus. That was like your guy. It represented you guys as a band at that moment.
Absolutely. 1,000%. And Kyle and I always talk about that being the moment where we figured out, aha, that's what needs to happen. Because before then, what had happened is we were making music to, and it sounds silly to say, but to fit like the hip thing. Like, it had to have this many syllables, and it had to sound like this, and it had to be this way. And the EP we put out before Regret You was New Horizons, and we had some really cool elements there, but if you ask me now, I feel like a lot of it was contrived into this little box that we stuck ourselves in. Yeah. With Regret You, this was the first track we did with the producer Austin Hull, and we gave a demo over to him, and then within 24 hours, he's like, "What do you think of this?" And then it was Regret You. I'm like, okay, cool.
Wow.
And so that was he's single-handedly probably the person that put us on the right track to say your music can sound big and honest versus too in your head. And I think you're able to connect to more people. We saw more people connecting with this song than they had our other songs.
Wow.
And so once we had that, you're correct. It was a complete turnaround for us.
That's amazing. It's crazy what like just adding new people to your team can do for you, and how they can just open up so many, not just doors in the business, but just doors sonically and musically and through your writing. And you just learn. You learn so much from other people and adding them to your team. So, dang, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I think that leads us well into this next song. This next one is Regret You.
Maybe I can write myself a lullaby. Honestly, it's getting kind of hard to sleep at night.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about before Regret You. We went to school together.
Yes, we did.
You did the music business thing, I believe, right?
I did, yes.
And I wanted to touch on that and see how has that impacted your music journey, and were you always playing music in bands? Has that been something that has always been a part of your life, or was it after college or in college that you met these guys? How did you guys meet, and what's the process been like through? I know this is a loaded question I'm asking you right now.
Good.
but I'm curious about the start of your music career and Thousand Frames, and I'm also curious, how has your music business degree really transformed your approach to being in the band? And I believe you're the manager of the band. Am I correct?
Correct. That's me.
Yep. So how is that? How is that too?
Yeah. Well, I've been playing music for 20 years. I started in 6th grade because I saw one of my best friends then have a guitar, and I'm like, oh, that looks cool.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I want to look cool too. So then I played guitar, or got my first guitar from my uncle, who grew up in the 60s and 70s, very much so a Hendrix inspired guitarist.
Cool.
He gave me my first guitar, and so I was a person where I learned by ear. My parents didn't have money for lessons, so I learned by ear and by sight. So I would just, at the time, Comcast had a channel where you could go and find lessons.
No way.
And I was just sitting in front of the TV with my guitar plucking along.
No way. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I credit that because like that was a good running start. And then once, I think the internet became a little more mature around that time where you could find music. And so I was, part of the school of Ultimate Guitar, where I would just go find the tabs. And I remember learning American Idiot from front to back, the whole album. I remember learning Linkin Park's Meteora from front to back.
Wow.
And it was one of those things, like, once I knew it and once I had it under my hands, I was like, oh, this is great, because now I feel like I can do something with this.
Sure. And
so around 8th grade is when my 8th grade, his 7th grade is when I met Kyle. And Kyle and I go way back since...
way back.
Way back. We were in our first band together, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so we were playing, cover songs. We had this... we covered Mudvayne's Happy, which was hilarious because we thought we were so cool with our Journey shirts and our flared hair. And we played a coffee shop and we thought we just crushed that thing.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So around that time... And we actually wrote or played a couple of my originals, and I don't know how I started writing songs. Like, I can't pinpoint to the day where it was like, aha, this is the song. But I think it started out with me experimenting with other people's songs. So one instance in particular I remember was I listened to this Godsmack song, Realign. I'm like, oh, well, I want to kind of make a song like that. And I played around with some chords, and I came up with something that was akin to that. I'm like, okay, not bad.
Sure.
And then I kept going after that and just kept going and going and going. And so that's how the songwriting evolved. And so with Kyle, he moved, shortly thereafter, he moved to Minnesota, came back in 2012, to be with his girlfriend, now wife, and he, at that time, I was in a cover band. I was playing cover bands that were, they were alright. They definitely got me a lot of experience, got me out of the...
Hey, we've all had those bands, right?
Man,
Come on.
they got me out of the naivete of thinking everything was just bright and shiny.
Yeah.
And I was playing with people that were like 15 years older than me at that time.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a lot of kind of broken dreamy sort of stuff where I was the youngest like person in the band, and then they were already had their heyday, so they're kind of just reliving it or trying to relive it. And
very different mindsets of being
absolutely
at different stages of music.
Absolutely. And when Kyle got back and he sent me the first demo, which was I think it was for Tighten Your Wings, which was off her first EP, I was like, all right, well, I think that's it there. That's what we're going to do. And that's all I needed to hear. And from then on, we just started grinding and working the scene and learning as we went. And that's how it all came to be.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so this is all happening before college then?
Before college, yeah. So right around the time that I was in the program, we were actually on a hiatus because what had ended up happening is we spent about 2 years grinding the scene, and Kyle came back. Kyle came from Minnesota, so Minnesota's rock scene is a lot more robust than it is here. So trying to marry that with what he came into this scene was a little difficult, just because it wasn't as immediate. The success wasn't as overnight as he probably would have expected it to be.
Yeah.
And so we were playing, all the, kind of divey sort of places with like nobody there and stuff like that. And I think we just got to the point where we're burnt out. Our drummer wasn't great either because he kept bailing on us and forgetting sticks and forgetting kick pedals and stuff like that.
Oh, man.
And it just became a chore.
And so this is a different drummer at the time.
Yes, different drummer. It was our original drummer. And so by the time I got to college, my whole idea was to meet people and network with people.
Yeah.
And one of the best things that CU Denver has done has made lifelong connections where I always know what people are up to. It is so cool. It feels almost like a fraternity or sorority, but not a fraternity or sorority.
Totally.
Where you just find people and say, oh yeah, I was in your class. Good to see you out playing and, you know, doing the thing. And I love that. I went to school originally in University of Arizona for my freshman year, and I was lacking that community. So this was so cool. And
were you still doing, sorry, not to interrupt you.
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
Were you still doing music in Arizona then?
I kind of was. I tried to do the solo thing for a little bit.
Cool.
I remember an instance in particular where I was called to do some session work for a singer-songwriter's single.
Okay.
And I had no idea what was going on, but I thought, oh my God, I was going to be in the studio. I really made the big time.
Yeah.
And then that was like, oh, you were great, but then we decided to cut the solo, and I'm like, okay.
Oh, no. That was a quick realization of the realities.
It was a big, kick in my ass, so to speak.
That's funny.
So yeah, I think the greatest thing about being in that program was just the lifelong connections I made. A lot that I've learned when we did your guys' CD release party. I didn't realize how much goes into the planning and all that has to be done beforehand. It was stuff that Thousand Frames wasn't doing. So those are lessons
was
that I still
Red
use.
Fox Run at the time?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Taking me back here,
Yes,
Kelsey.
yes. Take you back. So yeah, Red Fox Run was my first dive in to see how much actually has to be done.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was just like, oh my God, you guys are great, so up there. That's where I want to be. And I didn't know between being I think I was a part of the photography crew or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't know how much actually went into it. I was just naive and thinking, oh yeah, you put out a couple songs and that's it. And so those are the lessons that I took all the way up until now from that program. And again, it's so awesome to be in the community and see people out there, see your professors out there. It's awesome.
I know. I really think our program, just all the kids who are no matter what part of the program they were, we have probably the most kids who actually are active in the scene.
Absolutely.
Years later.
Absolutely. Which is wild to me. And there are people before us that are still in the scene. And that is that speaks to the magnitude of the program and how amazing it is and how much of a cultivated scene they create just by attending and just by participating. Even if you're in a general recital class, you're going to meet a bunch of people that may have the same or different music tastes as you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say something about that and I can't remember. It's okay. So tell me, how'd you meet your drummer then, your drummer, Ryan?
So funny story, Thousand Frames has a revolving door of drummers, and I don't know why that happens. It's very...
Okay, this wasn't in school then.
No. This is very Spinal Tappy, where it's just what happened to your drummer? Oh, he exploded. That sort of thing. So we've had a bunch of drummers. The first drummer we had, I knew in high school. Second drummer that we had, we met on, I think it was one of those Craigslist things where it's here, looking for a drummer.
Nice.
And then we had a bunch of session drummers. The drummer that we had from 2018 to this year, Mario, we met him in a pinch when we were SOL and couldn't find a drummer.
Yeah.
Then he left, and so Ryan we actually met through Facebook because he had put out an inquiry saying, hey, I'm looking for a permanent band to be a part of, and I was like, well, we've got this show up in Fort Collins, do you want to play? He's like, yeah. So I think he's great. He is so talented. I don't think he gives himself enough credit because he's so good. But he's great, and I feel like we've really formed a bond with him, and so
that's awesome.
We're really thankful to have him in the band.
Yeah, you think this is it? That he's the one?
I really hope so. I don't want to do this again.
Come on, Ryan, don't let us down right now.
Don't let us down. But yeah, we really appreciate him and his input in things, and I think it's anybody who comes into the situation with having Kyle and I, because we go back so long, it is daunting, and we both understand that.
Totally.
But we want to make sure that whoever comes in is aware that, you know, you're a part of the band. We're, you know, inducting you in. It is a group effort.
Totally. I like that. Well, and along those lines, because we need to check out a song here soon.
Yeah.
And so now I'm curious, do you guys bond over music? And is there any song in particular, like if you guys are on the road together, all three of you can put on a song and love it?
We are all three big Sleep Token fans right now.
I don't even know Sleep Token.
Oh, Sleep Token. It is, if you're into hard rock, heavy metal, metalcore, this is the band that has been blowing up for, I guess they've been blowing up before now, but like this year they really just took off.
Wow.
So yeah, that is the band where all three of us have seen them live.
Sleep Token.
And they're an amazing band.
Nice. I'm stoked to check them out.
Yeah.
Well, what are we going to listen to?
The Summoning.
The Summoning.
Yes.
All right. This is Sleep Token, The Summoning. So we have this new band. We've gone through a lot. Now we have this new band. And talk to me about what the future of this band holds and the future of releases, because you're hitting the ground running with some consistent releases. You just put out your last single. You're about to put it out another one this Friday, which by the time we listen to this, it will have already been out. But talk to me about this next song that you're releasing and what's ahead of that.
Yeah, so this next song we're releasing is called Love's Run Out of Time, and I wrote it last year, actually after an unfortunate event. It was after a shooting that happened in Buffalo. And what I ended up doing with that song is, you know, I was feeling so many emotions and I wanted to like put it down and figure out where everything was. And so I just opened up a session in GarageBand because I'm old school and I just have GarageBand on my iMac.
Hey,
and
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
And the beginning synth riff was a loop that I had been playing around with, and I really liked the chords that was under the synth riff. And so what I did was like, what if I did we've never done some sound effecty stuff. So then I stuck a siren under that. I'm like, okay, this is starting to get a mood. And then I took snippets of people saying stuff under it. And then it created this whole move. And then the guitar riff came right shortly thereafter. So what is recorded is is not much different from what I had originally wrote. We moved things around and stuff like that. But it became a song that was important. I feel like it's important for the current times. I had written a song back in 2020 called Better Late Than Never that I did because A, I was bored, B, I needed something to kind of voice how I was feeling in the summer of 2020 where there was just a lot of stuff going on. And so I felt like this, since I had done it before, I could do it again, but do it in the context of 1,000 Frames. And that was something where, you know, once Kyle had listened to it and he's like, you know, this beginning riff is where we need to, you know, make the song sit. Like this is where it needs to keep coming into the song. And so that's really the song. The music video that we did was up in Kyle's house. We did some cool green screen stuff with it. Some really cool light effects. I mean, I feel like this, and this ties into the future of 1,000 Frames. What is really cool about this cycle is that every song has a plan. So what we did with Done Blaming Myself, like everything has, like in my notes, I have where it needs to go, who we need to, you know, ship it to, everything, what the music video is going to look like. We have things written down.
Wow.
They're all documented. And once it's documented, it's easy to then go and proceed with your plan.
Execute.
Yeah.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we'll have more singles coming up next year. The goal is to have a big album release show where we'll have people in the scene hop on a bill, and we really want to try to get out of doing what we've always done and see if we could really capture the broad audience.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so album release show, how many songs?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't think we'll be playing anything from like our old records if that's where we're going.
Wow.
We might play one or two, but the stuff that we have written over the last two and a half years are really strong, and we really believe in them.
And so is that your album? Your album
Yes.
will be just a compilation of everything over the last couple of years.
Yes. So there, we're doing like the whole single thing, and then setting it up for like after the 4 single, announce the album, and then the album release show, and then
Nice.
kind of go from there. And
Wow.
yeah, and like one other thing that's pretty cool about this cycle is the way we've been doing content. And what I like that we've been doing is we've been taking our songs and making different versions of them.
Whoa.
So what you hear when you're scrolling through and seeing content is maybe a piano version or an orchestral version, which has been awesome.
Dang.
Yeah.
What are the motives behind that? Just to have more pieces of content, or is it for fun? Or
I actually found a creator online. Well, he's like a music professional. I don't know if you've heard of Jesse Cannon at all.
No.
Okay, so his gripe is that he hates it when bands tease their songs before they come out. And so I was like, okay, well, we'll see how that works. I like experimenting. So I was like, well, what if we do a different version of the song where we are teasing the song, but it is not the song? So we found people actually on Fiverr to like create a piano version and an orchestral version of the song, and that way it brings people into the world where they feel like, oh, I've heard this before, I've heard this melody.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually have heard this melody.
That's so
it's like,
smart.
yeah, creating different content where it's immersing people into the world before we even release the song.
It's like a form of brainwashing here.
Yeah.
No, I love it. That's super smart.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to check out that new song right now. This is this new song coming up on November 17th. This is Love's Run Out of Time.
These types of murders happen all the time. You know how these people are crazy?
And we have 16 patients at this time. Let's go ahead. On engine 62, 161 with triage.
Is there anything else you want to talk about today? I mean, dang, we went over so many good things.
I mean, it's crazy. I just think the coolest thing about being in this cycle of 1,000 Frames is seeing how many people are actually finally reacting to our music and actually paying attention. And yeah, I feel like you could say, oh, it's a little bit pompous to say, oh, people are actually paying attention to us. But yeah, you want people to pay attention to the art that you create.
Totally.
So I am just so thrilled that in the midst of chaos we were able to plan. So that's a good thing about having 2 years off, is we were able to plan and work on it, and now we're actually just enjoying the ride.
Yeah.
And that's really all I can ask for.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, congrats on all the success.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
is super cool for me to have watched you for years and to see, because I definitely see a change and I see people paying attention. So yeah, I'm stoked for you guys.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, totally. Well, Kelsey, thanks for sitting down with me today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
That's all we got, folks. Thanks so much for listening to Pivot Points. You can listen to the Pivot Points Music Cast and more on the Fader app. My name's Seth Beamer, and I'll talk to you soon.